The humble Nanny arrives at the mansion, believing she could bring life back to the twin girls who lived surrounded by silence. In the garden, she transforms a simple toy box into a makeshift carriage and draws out laughter from the children that had never been heard before. But when the millionaire sees her playing with his daughters, he collapses emotionally at the scene that exposes his own abandonment. From this breakdown, a decision is born that will forever change the destiny of that family. Amelia ran a hand over her tired face as she watched Lily sleeping on the narrow mattress they shared in the small back room. The girl was 5 years old and had the most peaceful sleep in the world, oblivious to the worries that kept her mother awake every night. Outside, the hot Kansas wind blew through the glassless window, bringing the smell of dry earth and the promise of another day just like all the others. $15,000 a month. The words had been echoing in Amelia's head ever since Mrs. Gable, her neighbor's employer, had made the offer 3 days ago. It was a sum she could barely pronounce correctly, one that seemed to belong to another world, another reality that wasn't hers, who worked 12 hours a day cleaning houses and still came home with only $800 at the end of the month. The employment agency in New York City was looking for a nanny for a businessman. 2-year-old twin girls, a full-time live-in position, total availability, and that impossible salary that could change everything. Amelia got up slowly, trying not to wake Lily, and went to the tiny kitchen where her mother, Eleanor, was already making coffee. The 63-year-old woman had hands marked by work, her grey hair set hide in a tight bun, and the firm demeanor of someone who had raised 7 children alone. Eleanor looked at her daughter and didn't need to ask. She knew that expression, that weight on the shoulders that Amelia had carried ever since she discovered she was pregnant at 18 and the child's father disappeared without a trace. "You didn't sleep again," her mother stated, placing the coffee pot on the table. Amelia sat on the plastic chair, the same piece of furniture that had been there since she was a child. "I can't stop thinking, Mom. Is it about the offer? $15,000. That's more money than I'd make in 5 years working here. I can pay for Lily's education at a good school, buy your heart medicine, fix up the house, put some money aside. It's the chance I've always prayed to God for." Eleanor poured the coffee and sat across from her daughter. Her face showed understanding, but also concern. "So what's the problem?" Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "New York is 2,000 miles away. The woman from the agency said the boss is very strict, that he demands total dedication. I'd get 1 day off. A month, maybe. Lily would stay here with you." The silence that settled in the kitchen was as heavy as the prairie heat. Eleanor reached out and held her daughter's fingers. "Amelia, my dear, you're the most dedicated woman I know. Ever since that girl was born, you've never thought about yourself, only about her. You've worked 3 jobs at once, slept 4 hours a night, given up everything. But how can I leave my daughter, Mum? She's still so little, she needs me." "And that's exactly why you have to go," Eleanor said firmly. "Do you think I didn't suffer when I had to leave you kids with the neighbor to work on the farm? Do you think it didn't hurt to leave before the sun came up and come back when it was already dark? But it was what had to be done. We make sacrifices for our children, Amelia. That's how life works for people like us." Amelia wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "What if she forgets me? What if she doesn't recognize me when I come back?" "A child never forgets her mother, my dear. You'll call every day. You'll send money. For me to buy her whatever she wants, you'll come visit whenever you can. And when she grows up, she'll understand that everything you did was out of love." At that moment, Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her sleepy eyes, her curly hair a mess. "Mommy, are you going to work today?" Amelia opened her arms, and the little girl ran into her lap. She smelled her daughter's hair, that scent of childhood she knew better than anything in the world. How could she leave that? How could she walk away from that hug? But then she looked around. The peeling walls, the ceiling with water stains, the old refrigerator that only half worked. She thought about the precarious public school where Lily would study, the opportunities she would never have, the limited future that awaited her. "Mommy is going on a work trip, my love. Amelia said, her voice choked with emotion. "But it's so we can have a better life, understand?" Lily nodded, not really comprehending, and Amelia hugged her daughter tightly, trying to burn every detail of that moment into her memory. 3 days later, Amelia was at the Harmony Creek bus station with an old suitcase and a heavy heart. Eleanor held Lily's hand, and the little girl was crying, not understanding why her mother was leaving. "Mommy, I want to go with you," Lily screamed, trying to pull away from her grandmother. Amelia knelt in front of her daughter, holding her little face between her hands. "My love, Mommy has to work very far away, but I'll be back soon. You're going to stay with Grandma. You'll play a lot. You'll be strong for me, okay?" "I don't want to. I want you." Tears streamed down Amelia's face, but she forced a smile. "I know, my princess. I want to stay too, but this is for our future, so we can have a nice house, so you can study at a good school, have toys, new clothes. Do you understand?" Lily shook her head, tears soaking her shirt. Amelia hugged her fiercely, taking a deep breath, trying to be strong. "Look at me," Amelia said, pulling her daughter back slightly. "Every night before you go to sleep, you're going to look at the moon, see? And I'll be looking at it too. We'll be looking at the same moon in the same sky, and that way I'll be close to you. Promise you'll come back?" "I promise, and I'll call every day to talk to you." The voice on the loudspeaker announced the bus's departure. Amelia kissed her daughter's forehead, then stood up and hugged her mother. "Take care of her for me, Mom." "Like she was my own life," Eleanor replied, her voice firm despite her moist eyes. Amelia boarded the bus and chose a window seat. As the vehicle began to move, she saw Lily running after it, screaming, while Eleanor struggled to hold her back. The scene broke Amelia's heart into 1,000 pieces. She rested her forehead against the cold glass and let the tears fall freely. The bus drove through the dusty streets of Harmony Creek, past the simple houses, the familiar faces, the life she was leaving behind. The trip to New York City would last 2 whole days, but Amelia knew the real journey would be much longer. As the prairie landscape gave way to the highway, Amelia thought about the agency's words. A widowed businessman, 2 twin daughters, a mansion in a wealthy neighborhood. A world completely different from hers. She didn't know what she would find there, didn't know if she'd be able to care for rich children, didn't know if she could bear the distance from her own daughter. But she had to try. For Lily, for a better future, for all the opportunities she never had and wanted to give her daughter. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a message from Eleanor with a photo of Lily holding a drawing. The girl had drawn a giant red heart with Mommy written inside. Amelia clutched the phone to her chest and closed her eyes. "It's going to work out," she murmured to herself. "It has to work out." The bus continued down the highway, carrying Amelia far from everything she knew towards an uncertain destiny that promised to change her life forever. She couldn't imagine what awaited her. She couldn't predict that this painful decision would trigger events that would transform not only her future, but also the future of others. She didn't know she was about to enter a house where silence was heavier than any poverty she had ever known, where wealth couldn't buy what truly mattered. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky orange and red, Amelia looked out the window and thought of the moon that would soon appear. The same moon Lily would also see, and in that thought she found a small crumb of comfort to keep going. The city of New York revealed itself gradually through the bus's fogged window. After a 2-day journey, Amelia could barely feel her legs when she finally stepped off at the Port Authority bus terminal. The place was immense, filled with hurried people, the noise of engines and announcements over the loudspeaker. She gripped the handle of her old suitcase and looked for the sign with her name on it. A woman in a navy blue suit held a sheet of paper with Amelia Scott written in large letters. It was Patricia from the employment agency, who greeted her with a professional smile and led her to a black car with tinted windows parked outside. During the drive, Patricia explained the rules. "Mr. William Blackwood is a very busy and private man. He expects absolute professionalism. The girls, Sophia and Helen, turned 2 last month. You will have your own room in the staff quarters, with a private bathroom. Your days off will be the last Sunday of each month, Any unforeseen issues should be reported to Mr. Blackwood or the housekeeper, Mrs. Davies. Amelia listened attentively, but her mind was divided. She had called her mother as soon as she arrived, and hearing Lily's tearful voice on the other end of the line had almost made her give up everything and get on the next bus back. The car entered a neighborhood that looked like it was straight out of a magazine. Wide streets, lush trees, enormous houses hidden behind high walls. When they stopped in front of a wrought iron gate, Amelia felt her stomach churn. With nervousness, the gate opened automatically, and they drove up a stone-paved lane to the main entrance. The mansion was immense, all white, with huge windows and a perfectly manicured garden. It looked like a luxury hotel. "Welcome," Patricia said, turning off the engine. "I'll introduce you to Mrs. Davies. She'll take care of the rest." The housekeeper was a slender woman in her 50s, with her hair in a flawless bun and a stern expression that left no room for familiarity. She greeted Amelia with a nod and quickly dismissed Patricia. "Follow me," she ordered, her voice echoing in the immense entrance hall, with its marble floor and a crystal chandelier that was probably worth more than Amelia's entire house in Harmony Creek. Mrs. Davies led her through silent corridors, with walls decorated by abstract paintings and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was impeccable, tidy, cold. There were no photographs on the walls, no personal objects in sight, no sign that people actually lived there. "This will be your room," the housekeeper said, opening a door at the end of a hallway. The room was simple but comfortable, with a single bed, a built-in wardrobe and a window overlooking the back of the property. "The bathroom is here. Your meals will be served in the kitchen with the rest of the staff. Never use the main kitchen or the dining room." Amelia put her suitcase down and nodded, feeling smaller and smaller in that gigantic place. "The girls are in their room now. I'll take you there. Mr. Blackwood will be home late tonight, as always. You will begin your duties immediately." They went up a wide staircase to the second floor. Mrs. Davies stopped before a double door and knocked lightly before opening it. The room was enormous, decorated in pastel tones with 2 white cribs, a multitude of toys arranged on shelves, and a window that overlooked the garden. But the first thing Amelia noticed was the crying. 2 small, identical girls, with light brown hair and green eyes swollen from crying, were sitting on the floor surrounded by toys that looked like they had never been touched. An employee was unsuccessfully trying to calm them. "They've been like this since they woke up," the woman explained, looking exhausted. "They haven't eaten anything, they don't want to play, they just cry." Amelia felt her heart ache. They were babies, small and vulnerable, and something about them reminded her of Lily at that age. She approached slowly and knelt on the floor, getting down to the girls' level. "Hello, my loves," she said softly, her voice full of Midwestern warmth. "I'm Amelia. I've come to take care of you." The twins stopped crying for a moment and looked at her with wide, curious eyes. Amelia slowly extended her hand, letting them examine it. One of them, Sophia, timidly touched her fingers. The other, Helen, continued to watch her suspiciously. "You can leave now," Mrs. Davies said to the other employee. "Amelia will take over from here." When they were alone, Amelia began to sing a lullaby she always sang for Lily. Her voice filled the silence of the huge room, bringing a softness that seemed out of place in such a perfect and cold environment. Sophia began to calm down, her sobs subsiding. Helen still kept her distance, but she was no longer crying. Amelia picked up a teddy bear and started making it dance, inventing a silly story that made Sophia give a shy little smile. "There now, see how much better." "This is," Amelia said, encouraged by this small victory. "Now let's see if you two will eat something. How about that?" The rest of the afternoon was challenging. The girls resisted everything, cried when Amelia tried to change their clothes, refused food, and didn't want to lie in their cribs. But she had patience, that infinite patience that only mothers have, and little by little she made small breakthroughs. As the sun began to set, Amelia managed to bathe them both, dress them in clean pajamas, and put them in their cribs. She sang lullabies, stroked their hair, and whispered sweet words until finally they both fell asleep. She stood there watching those 2 little creatures sleeping and felt a strange mixture of tenderness and sadness. They were beautiful, delicate, but there was something broken in them, a neediness that no expensive toy could fill. That's when she heard footsteps in the hall. The door opened and a man entered. William Blackwood was around 35, tall, with broad shoulders, dressed in an impeccable dark suit. His hair was black, combed back, and he had grey eyes that seemed perpetually tired. But what struck Amelia most was the expression on his face, empty, as if no one was really there. He glanced briefly at his sleeping daughters and then at Amelia. He didn't say hello, didn't introduce himself, didn't ask how her day had been. He just gave an almost imperceptible nod and left the room as silently as he had entered. Amelia stood still, processing that strange encounter. It was as if he had looked right through her, as if his own daughters were just part of the decor of that place. That night, alone in her room, Amelia called home. Eleanor answered and passed the phone to Lily. "Mommy, when are you coming back?" The little girl's voice travelled across the distance and squeezed Amelia's heart. "Soon, my love. How was your day? I drew a picture of you. And Grandma made cake. But I wish you were here." "I wish I was too, my princess. But remember what we talked about? Mommy is working so we can have a better life." "I know. I saw the moon today. Did you see it too?" Amelia looked out her bedroom window. There it was, the full moon shining in the New York sky. "I'm looking at it right now. See how we're together?" After she hung up, Amelia let the tears fall freely. The longing was physical. It hurt in her chest, weighed on her shoulders. But she had to be strong. She had to endure. In the following days, Amelia began to better understand the dynamics of the house. William left early and came back late. When he was home, he locked himself in his office. He avoided his daughters, never held them, never asked about them. It was as if the girls were a painful reminder of something he preferred to forget. Mrs. Davies ran the house with military efficiency. There were gardeners, cleaners, a driver, a cook. Everyone did their job in silence and disappeared. The mansion felt like a hotel, not a home. The twins cried a lot. They would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, refuse food, and have inexplicable tantrums. Amelia realized it wasn't naughtiness. It was pain. Those children felt their father's absence like an open wound. One morning, while changing Helen's diaper, Amelia had a revelation. The girls' room had expensive toys, designer clothes, imported furniture, but it had no soul. There were no photos, no drawings on the walls, nothing made with love. "This isn't a child's room," she murmured to herself. "It's a display window." And it was in that moment that Amelia decided she had to change that. She didn't know how, she didn't know if William would allow it, but those girls needed more than basic care. They needed life, joy, love. And if there was one thing Amelia had in abundance, despite all her poverty, it was exactly that. Amelia's first week in the mansion was a silent battle. She woke up at 6 in the morning when the twins started to cry, and barely stopped until 10 at night, when she finally got them to sleep. Sophia and Helen were difficult children, not because they were bad, but because they carried a sadness that no 2-year-old should know. Amelia observed everything carefully. She noticed that William left his room before 7 and only returned after 11 at night. In the rare moments he crossed paths with his daughters in the hallways, he would avert his gaze, murmur something to Mrs. Davies, and disappear. It was as if the girls were ghosts to him, invisible presences haunting that gigantic house. One afternoon, while the twins were sleeping, Amelia was in the kitchen having coffee when Mrs. Davies sat down beside her. The housekeeper, usually so rigid, looked tired. "You're doing better than the others," she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Others?" Amelia asked. "You're the 5th nanny in 2 years. The others didn't last more than a few months. Mr. Blackwood is very demanding, and the girls are difficult." Amelia felt a tightness in her chest. What happened to their mother? Mrs. Davies was silent for a moment, as if weighing how much she could reveal. Mrs. Catherine passed away during childbirth. There were severe complications. Mr. Blackwood was present when it happened. Since then he hasn't been the same. It's as if a part of him died too. The words made Amelia understand a lot. William's coldness wasn't cruelty, it was pain. He couldn't look at his daughters because they were a constant reminder of everything he had lost. Every laugh they would have would be a laugh Catherine would never hear. Every step, every word, every achievement would be something his wife would miss forever. "Does he blame them?" Amelia asked softly. "I don't know what goes on in his head," Mrs. Davies replied, "but I know he's destroyed inside, and those girls are paying the price." That night, Amelia lay awake, thinking. She remembered when Lily was born, how she held her daughter for the first time and felt a love so overwhelming it almost hurt. She couldn't imagine what it would be like to love someone that much and then lose them. But the twins were innocent. They didn't ask to be born, they weren't to blame for what happened. And they were growing up in a house full of things but empty of affection, with a father who avoided them and staff who just followed orders. Amelia decided she had to do something. She didn't know exactly what, but she couldn't just change diapers and give them bottles. Those children needed so much more. The next day, after William left for work, Amelia had an idea. She picked up Sophia and Helen and left the room. Mrs. Davies intercepted her in the hallway. "Where do you think you're going with the girls?" "I'm going to show them the house," Amelia replied with a smile. "They barely leave that room. Mr. Blackwood doesn't like things being disturbed." "I'm not going to disturb anything. I just want them to see where they live." The housekeeper hesitated, then sighed. "All right, but be careful." Amelia went down the stairs with the twins, one in each arm. She opened the heavy curtains in the living room, letting the sun in. The light revealed the dust motes floating in the air, proof that no one used that space. "Look how pretty, girls! Look at the sunlight!" Amelia said excitedly. Sophia clapped her hands, enchanted by the light beams. Helen observed everything with her attentive green eyes, still suspicious but curious. Amelia took them to the garden. The lawn was perfect, the flowers perfectly arranged, the trees precisely pruned, but there was no life there. She sat on the grass with the girls and took off their little shoes, letting them feel the texture of the grass on their feet. Sophia laughed when the grass tickled her. Helen was still wary, but she slowly began to relax. Amelia picked up a fallen flower and tickled both their noses, drawing out giggles. It was the first time she had seen them truly happy. "See how nice this is?" Amelia said, hugging them both. "The world. Here's big and beautiful, full of fun things. You don't have to stay locked up in that room." In the following days, Amelia established a new routine. After breakfast, she would take the twins for a walk around the house. She opened windows, sang as she walked through the corridors, and played silly games that made the girls laugh. The mansion began to have different sounds: children's laughter, Midwestern folk songs, the noise of children playing. But William remained absent. Amelia barely saw him. When he was home, he was locked in his office, working late into the night. She knew he heard his daughters. Their laughter and cries passed through the walls, but he never appeared. One evening, Amelia was bathing the twins when Sophia looked at her and said clearly, "Mommy." Amelia's heart froze. She knew she shouldn't feel happy about it, but a part of her filled with joy. This little child trusted her, loved her, but at the same time she felt a pang of guilt. She wasn't their mother, and she had her own daughter 2,000 miles away. "No, my love. I'm Amelia. Mommy is in heaven watching over you." But Sophia insisted. "Mommy, Mommy!" Helen soon repeated it. "Mommy." Amelia didn't know what to do. Correct them every time. Let them call her that. It was a delicate situation, and she had no answers. That night, after the girls were asleep, Amelia was leaving the room when she ran into William in the hallway. He stopped, surprised to see her there. It was the first time they had been face to face since that first day. "Mr. Blackwood," Amelia said, trying to keep her voice steady. He just nodded and started to walk away. "Sir, I'd like to talk about the girls." William stopped but didn't turn around. "If there's a problem, speak to Mrs. Davies. It's not a problem, it's just that they're growing. They need more stimulation, more attention, more... You were hired to take care of them. Do your job." The coldness in his voice was like a slap. Amelia felt anger rise within her. "I am doing my job, but these children need their father too." William turned around slowly. His grey eyes were as hard as stone. "You know nothing about me or my life. Take care of my daughters and stay in your place." He walked away down the hall, leaving Amelia alone, her hands trembling with anger and frustration. How could someone be so cold to their own daughters? How could there be so much love in the world, and he simply chose to give none to those children? That night, when she called home, Amelia broke down. She told Eleanor everything. The cold boss, the needy girls, the huge, empty house. "Mom, I don't know if I can stay here. It's a lot of money, but this place is too sad. The girls deserve more than this." "And do you think you can give them more?" her mother asked. Amelia fell silent, thinking, "I can try." "Then try, my dear. Sometimes God puts us in difficult places precisely because we're the right people to make a difference." After hanging up, Amelia stared out the window. She knew her mother was right. She was there for a reason. It wasn't just about the money. Those two girls needed her perhaps as much as Lily did. The next morning, Amelia woke up determined. She was going to do more than just care for Sophia and Helen. She was going to bring joy to that house, teach them to laugh, to play, to live. And maybe, just maybe, she could also touch the stone heart of that man who hid behind his work and his pain. She started small. She brought music into the girls' room, sang while dressing them, made up silly stories during meals. The twins began to respond. The crying lessened. The smiles increased. They started looking for Amelia, reaching out their little arms when she entered the room, calling her, always, "Mommy." And Amelia, even knowing she shouldn't, let them. Because those children needed someone to answer when they called. They needed to feel that they were loved, that they mattered to someone. The house began to change. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was happening. There was more light coming through the windows, more sounds of life in the corridors, more warmth on that cold marble. But William remained distant, a shadow that appeared and disappeared, always avoiding, always hiding. And Amelia knew that the real transformation would only happen when he decided to face what he had been running from for so long. The month of October brought a change in New York's weather. The afternoons grew warmer, the sky bluer, and Amelia took the opportunity to intensify her adventures with the twins. It had been a month and a half since her arrival, and Sophia and Helen were completely different children. They still had their difficult moments, but laughter had become more frequent than tears. Amelia had established rituals that the girls adored. Every morning after breakfast, they would open the curtains in their room singing, "Good morning, son." Then they would tour the house, greeting the plants, the paintings, even the furniture. It was silly, but the twins had fun, and Amelia knew the important thing was to create moments of joy. Mrs. Davies had relaxed the rules. She saw that Amelia was careful, and that the girls were better, so she allowed more freedom. The cook, Mrs. Rose, a kind-hearted Portuguese lady, began preparing special treats for the twins and always saved a piece of cake for Amelia. "You're good for those girls," Mrs. Rose would say. "It's been a long time since I've seen children smile in this house." But there was a problem growing in Amelia's heart. The longing for Lily was becoming unbearable. They talked on the phone every day, but it wasn't enough. Amelia missed hugging her daughter, smelling her hair, sleeping beside her. And worse, she was starting to feel like she was replacing Lily with Sophia and Helen. It was a terrible guilt that consumed her in the silent nights. She loved those two girls, cared for them with all her heart, but every time they called her Mommy, it was like a knife to the heart. Because she had a daughter, her own daughter, who was far away, who also called her Mommy, who also needed her. "How's my princess?" she would ask every night on the phone. "I'm fine, Mum, but when are you coming to see me?" "Soon, my love, soon." But soon never came. Her days off were once a month, and the trip to Harmony Creek was too long to make and return in one day. Amelia tried to talk to William about the possibility of visiting more often, but he was even more inaccessible than before. He avoided her in the hallways, communicated only through Mrs. Davies, and never asked about his daughters. It was Mrs. Rose who told her more about William. "He was different before," she said while preparing lunch. "When he met Mrs. Catherine, it was like the whole world lit up for him. She was a doctor, beautiful, intelligent. They fell madly in love. The wedding was the event of the year, and when she got pregnant, he was overjoyed. What happened? Amelia asked, though she already knew part of the story. The birth was difficult. There were complications. The doctors tried to save all three, but they could only save the girls. Mrs. Catherine passed away right there on the operating table with Mr. Blackwood holding her hand. They say he was never the same after that. It's like he faded away with her. Amelia felt her eyes sting. She imagined the man's pain having to choose between saving his wife or his daughters and then living with the consequences. It didn't justify his coldness towards Sophia and Helen, but it explained it. Determined to make a bigger difference, Amelia began to plan something special. She wanted to create an unforgettable moment for the twins, something that would bring pure joy to that house. And she had an idea. In the back storage room, there were dozens of boxes with toys that had never been used. Amelia asked Mrs. Davies for permission and spent a whole afternoon searching. She found a large empty cardboard box, the perfect size for two small children. With markers she asked Mrs. Rose to buy, Amelia drew wheels on the sides of the box. They weren't perfect. She had no talent for drawing, but they were wheels. She drew headlights on the front, even a license plate with the girls' names. "Look at this," she said to Sophia and Helen when she showed them her creation. "A special car just for you." The girls were delighted. Amelia placed cushions inside the box to make it more comfortable, and then, with a twin on each side, began to push it around the room. They screamed with joy, clapped their hands, and asked for more. "Let's go to the garden," Amelia announced, picking up the box with both of them inside. She carefully went down the stairs, crossed the living room, and went out the door that led to the side garden. The grass was soft, the afternoon sun cast a golden light, and as Amelia began to push the makeshift carriage across the lawn, the girls' laughter echoed throughout the property. "Faster, Mummy, faster!" Sophia shouted, her hair flying in the wind. "Vroom, vroom!" Amelia made the sound, running with the box, sweat dripping down her face but her heart full of happiness. Helen laughed so hard she got the hiccups. Both their cheeks were red with joy, their eyes sparkled, and their little hands gripped the edge of the box. Amelia ran with them all over the garden, pretending they were in a race, making engine noises and honking with her mouth. When she finally stopped, she was out of breath and her legs were trembling, but the smile on her face was genuine. Sophia and Helen got out of the box and ran to hug her, shouting with happiness. "Again, again," they begged. Amelia looked at those two radiant little creatures and felt an overwhelming emotion. This was why she had left her own daughter, to give these two girls a chance to be happy, to have a childhood, to know what love was. "Okay, one more lap," she said, picking them both up and putting them back in the box. That's when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned and saw William standing on the veranda, still in his suit, his briefcase in hand. He had come home early, and he was looking directly at her and his daughters. Amelia's heart raced. She expected to see anger on his face, but what she saw was something different. It was a mixture of surprise, confusion, and something deeper she couldn't identify. William looked at his daughters laughing in the cardboard box, at Amelia barefoot and sweaty, at that simple scene so full of life. For a moment, just a brief moment, Amelia saw something break in his hard expression, something almost like pain, regret, longing. But then he blinked and the mask was back in place. "Mr. Blackwood," Amelia said, trying to catch her breath. "I can explain—" "Daddy!" Sophia shouted from inside the box, reaching her little arms out to him. William looked at his daughter as if she were a stranger. Sophia continued with her arms outstretched, waiting for her father to pick her up to respond to her call. But he stood there, frozen, unable to take a single step. "Daddy, come on," Helen insisted, also reaching out her arms. The silence that followed was painful. Amelia saw the desperation growing on the girls' faces as they realized their father wasn't going to pick them up. She saw the tears beginning to form in their little green eyes, and she saw for the first time a real crack in William's armor. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but no sound came out. His eyes filled with something that looked like panic. Then, abruptly, he turned and went back into the house, leaving his daughters there, their arms still reaching out to nothing. Sophia started to cry. Helen soon followed. Amelia felt anger boil inside her. How could he do that? How could he ignore his own daughters like that? "Shh, my loves, it's okay," she said, picking them both up and hugging them tightly. "It's okay, Amelia's here." "Daddy doesn't like us," Sophia sobbed against Amelia's shoulder. The words were like a punch to the gut. Amelia felt her own tears threaten to fall, but she held them back. She had to be strong for the girls. "That's not it, my love. Daddy loves you very, very much. He's just a little lost right now, but he loves you. I promise." But even she didn't believe it. That night, after a great deal of effort to get the twins to sleep, Amelia went down to the kitchen for a cup of tea. She found Mrs. Davies sitting alone at the table, a cup of coffee in her hands. "He saw you in the garden," the housekeeper said without looking up. "I know. It's been 2 years since I've seen Mr. Blackwood come home early. I think he heard the laughter." Amelia sat down. "He didn't even look at them properly. The girls called for him, and he just walked away." Mrs. Davies sighed. "He's scared." "Scared of what? They're his daughters. Scared of loving and losing again, scared of getting close and feeling the pain he's been trying to avoid for 2 years. That man isn't cold, Amelia. He's bleeding on the inside and doesn't know how to stop." The words made sense, but they didn't ease Amelia's anger. The girls are paying the price. They deserve a father. I know, but I don't know if he can be that for them. Amelia drank her tea in silence, thinking about everything. She thought about Lily, about what it would be like if she were in Sophia and Helen's position, with a mother who couldn't love her. She thought about William locked in his office, running from his own life. She thought about that gigantic house that had everything except the essential, and she thought that something had to change. She didn't know how, but something had to happen to break that cycle of pain and emotional abandonment. The days that followed were strange. William didn't come home early again, but Amelia felt that something had shifted. Sometimes when she passed by his office, she would hear footsteps on the other side of the door, as if he were pacing. Mrs. Davies mentioned that he was sleeping even less, that the office lights stayed on until the early hours of the morning. Amelia continued her routine of bringing life to the house. The cardboard box became the twins' favorite toy. Every day after their afternoon snack, they would ask to play with their carriage in the garden. Amelia drew more details on the box, glued on colored paper, and made an imaginary steering wheel. The girls would get inside, and the world would transform into an adventure. But with every mommy, they said, Amelia felt the weight of her guilt increase, especially when she called home and Lily also called her mommy, and she realized she was failing both of them. Here she was pretending to be a mother to children who weren't hers. There she was an absent mother to the child who truly was. One Thursday afternoon, Amelia was in the garden with the twins. The day was beautiful. A cloudless sky, a gentle breeze, perfect temperature. She had put Sophia and Helen in the box and was pushing them across the lawn when she heard that laughter she had come to love so much. "Faster, Mommy," Sophia shouted, her curls flying in the wind. "Vroom, vroom!" Amelia made the sound running with the box, pretending she was on a racetrack. "Attention, attention! The great champions Sophia and Helen are in the lead." Helen clapped her hands, her face red from laughing so hard. "Again! Again!" Amelia stopped to catch her breath, her hands on her knees. She was barefoot, her hair in a messy ponytail, her shirt sticking to her back with sweat. But she was happy there, in that simple moment, watching those two children radiant with joy. "Okay, one more lap and then we'll have juice, deal?" "Deal," they both shouted in unison. Amelia took a running start and dashed off with the box, making engine noises, dodging imaginary trees, commentating on the race like an announcer. The twins screamed with happiness, calling her Mommy, asking for more speed, more adventure. That's when she felt it, that feeling of being watched. She slowed down and looked back. William was there, standing on the veranda, in a full suit, briefcase in hand. But this time he wasn't alone. There was a man beside him, probably a business partner or client, also in a suit. observing the scene with a surprised expression. Amelia stopped completely. Her heart pounded. William was looking directly at her and his daughters, and there was something different on his face. It wasn't just surprise, it was something more intense, more visceral. "Mommy, why did you stop?" asked Sophia. "Mommy, keep going," Helen pleaded. The other man said something to William, but he didn't answer. He was fixated on the scene before him. His daughters, happy in a cardboard box, calling the nanny Mom, laughing as he hadn't seen them laugh since they were born. Or perhaps he had never seen it because he was never there. Amelia saw something inside him crumble. It was subtle. But, she noticed, his shoulders tensed, his jaw clenched, his hands gripped the briefcase tightly, and in his eyes, those grey eyes that always seemed so empty, she saw something that frightened her. It was fear, pure, paralyzing fear. "Mr. Blackwood," Amelia said, trying to sound professional despite being barefoot and sweaty. "I didn't know you were coming home early." William didn't answer. The man beside him tried to resume the conversation, but he raised a hand, signaling for silence. He began to descend the veranda steps, walking slowly toward the garden. Sophia and Helen, seeing their father approach, got excited. "Daddy, Daddy, look!" Sophia shouted. "We're in a car." "Daddy, come play," Helen begged, reaching out her little arms. But William wasn't looking at his daughters with love or pride. He was looking at them with something that seemed like anger, or perhaps panic. When he got close to Amelia, his voice came out low and controlled, but fraught with tension. "What do you think you're doing?" Amelia blinked, confused. "I'm playing with the girls, sir." "Playing?" He looked at the cardboard box as if it were dangerous. "You put my daughters inside a cardboard box, and you're pushing them around the garden. They love it. It's just a harmless game." "Harmless?" His voice rose a notch. "You think this is appropriate? Children this age need proper supervision, safe toys, professional care." The twins started to get scared by the tone of their father's voice. Sophia began to whimper. Helen grabbed her sister. "Mr. Blackwood, please, you're scaring them," Amelia said, trying to stay calm. "I'm scaring them." He took a step forward, his voice even louder. "You're the one being irresponsible. This is a cardboard box. It could tear, they could fall, get hurt." "They won't get hurt. I'm holding it carefully." "You don't know that. You can't guarantee it. And another thing," he pointed at the girls who were now crying openly, "why do they call you Mom? You are not their mother." The words came out like an accusation, loaded with a pain so deep that Amelia felt it in her own chest. But anger also began to boil inside her. "They call me that because I'm the one who takes care of them. I'm the one who stays up all night when they have nightmares. I'm the one who sings them to sleep. I'm the one who wipes away their tears. You were hired to do that. It's your job. But it's not my job to love them. I do that because I want to, because they need it, because someone needs to give love to these children since their father can't." The silence that followed was absolute. William's face turned white, then red. His hands were shaking. The man on the veranda came down a few steps, concerned about the situation. "William, maybe we should reschedule this meeting," he said. But William wasn't listening to anyone. He was looking at Amelia with an intensity she had never seen before. It was as if all his defenses had fallen, and she was looking directly into the chaos within him. "You know nothing about me," he said, his voice dangerously low. "You know nothing about what I've been through, about what I've lost. You have no right to judge me." "I'm not judging, I'm telling the truth. Your daughters need you." "My daughters." He paused, as if the words were poison in his mouth. "My daughters cost me everything. Do you understand that? Everything." Amelia felt tears in her eyes. Sophia and Helen were now crying desperately, frightened by the argument, trying to get out of the box. "They didn't ask to be born," Amelia said, her voice trembling, "and they're not to blame for what happened. They're innocent." "You're fired," William said suddenly. "Pack your things and get out of my house." The world stopped. Amelia stared at him, unable to believe what she was hearing. "What?" "You heard me. You're fired. I don't want you near my daughters. Mrs. Davies will arrange for your payment and transportation back to your town." "But, sir, now!" The twins started screaming. Sophia scrambled out of the box and clung to Amelia's legs. "No, Mummy stays, Mummy stays!" Helen got out too and hugged her sister, both of them clinging to Amelia's skirt. "Mummy, don't go! Don't go!" Amelia looked at those two desperate little creatures and felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. She looked at William and saw that he was also destroyed, but he wouldn't back down, wouldn't yield, maintaining his hard expression despite his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Please," Amelia said, her voice breaking, "don't do this to them. I'll leave if you want, but not like this. Not in front of them. Not this way. Get off my property now." Mrs. Davies appeared on the veranda, drawn by the shouting. She ran down and assessed the situation in seconds. She looked at William with disapproval, but he didn't change his mind. "Amelia, come with me," the housekeeper said gently. "Let's get your things." "No, no!" Sophia and Helen screamed, clinging even tighter. Amelia had to use all her strength to pull away from the twins. Sophia and Helen screamed, cried, and clung to her desperately. Mrs. Davies tried to pick them up, but they fought, calling for Amelia, reaching out their little arms as she was practically dragged into the house. "Mummy! Mummy, come back!" The girls' screams echoed through the garden, piercing Amelia's heart like daggers. She looked back one last time and saw William standing there, motionless as a statue, while his daughters cried at the top of their lungs. The man in the suit was trying to calm him, saying something about rescheduling, but William seemed to be hearing nothing, lost in his own private hell. Inside the house, Amelia fell apart. Mrs. Davies took her to her room and she collapsed onto the bed, her hands shaking, her chest too tight to breathe. Outside, she could still hear the twins' screams. Other staff members must have been trying to calm them, but from the sound of it, they weren't succeeding. "Breathe, girl," Mrs. Davies said, sitting beside her. "Take a deep breath." "He can't do this," Amelia sobbed. "The girls need me. They'll be devastated." "I know, but he's the boss, and when he decides something, he doesn't go back on it. How can he be so cruel to his own daughters?" Mrs. Davies sighed, looking as if she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. "He's not being cruel to them. He's being cruel to himself, but he can't see the difference." Amelia began to gather her things with trembling hands. She had so little: an old suitcase with simple clothes, a few photos of Lily, her phone. Everything she owned fit into a single bag. But she was leaving behind 2 children she loved, 2 children who loved her, 2 children who would be more lost than ever. From the garden, the screams still came. Amelia recognized the voices of Sophia and Helen, tired from so much crying but still calling for her. Every cry was a stab wound. "Will they calm down?" she asked, wiping her tears. "Eventually. Children always calm down." "But the damage is already done, isn't it? Another important person disappears from their lives." Mrs. Davies didn't answer, because there was no answer that could soften that truth. When Amelia finished packing, the driver was already waiting to take her away. Mrs. Davies handed her an envelope with her month's pay, plus compensation for the sudden dismissal. "It wasn't supposed to end like this," the housekeeper said with a look of genuine sadness. "You were good for those girls. You were the first person to make them happy. It didn't do any good, did it?" Amelia picked up the suitcase, its weight nothing compared to the weight in her heart. When she left the house, it was late afternoon. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink. The garden was empty now, the cardboard box abandoned on the grass, the drawn-on wheels looking sad in the silence. From somewhere in the house, the muffled sound of a child's cry could still be heard. Amelia got in the car and didn't look back. She couldn't. If she did, she would fall apart completely. The drive to the bus terminal passed in a blur. She bought a ticket for the first available bus to Harmony Creek, which would leave in 2 hours. She sat on a hard plastic chair and called her mother. "Mum, I was fired," she said as soon as Eleanor answered, and then she began to cry uncontrollably. "What happened, my dear? Calm down, breathe, and tell me." Between sobs, Amelia told her everything. The argument, William's accusations, the brutal firing in front of the children, the twins' desperation. Eleanor listened in silence, letting her daughter vent. "That man is lost in his own pain," she said when Amelia finished, "but that doesn't justify what he did. The girls are going to be so confused, Mum. They love me. I know I shouldn't have let it happen. I know I'm not their mother. But how can you not love two children who are so needy? You did nothing wrong, Amelia. You did what any person with a heart would do. You gave love where there was only emptiness. And now they'll be even emptier. It's not your fault, it's his fault for not being to see what's right in front of him." After hanging up, Amelia watched the bustle of the bus terminal. People coming and going, meetings and farewells, lives briefly intersecting. She thought of Lily, whom she would see again soon. She should be happy, anxious, but all she felt was an overwhelming sadness. Inside the mansion, chaos had erupted. Sophia and Helen cried for hours, inconsolable. None of the staff could calm them. They refused food, refused water, refused to be held. They only screamed for Amelia, calling for the mommy who had gone away. William locked himself in his office. After his business partner left, he sat there alone, trying to work, trying to focus on the documents in front of him. But his daughter's screams pierced the walls, penetrated his concentration, echoed in his mind. He opened a drawer and took out a photo. It was of Catherine smiling at the camera, pregnant, her hands on her large belly, her eyes shining with happiness. It was from before, when everything was perfect, when the future seemed bright. "Why did you leave me?" he whispered to the photo. "Why did you do this to me?" But the photo didn't answer. It never would. And those screams outside, those screams from the daughters who were half him and half her, continued without stopping. Mrs. Davies knocked on the office door. "Mr. Blackwood, the girls won't stop crying. We've tried everything." "Call another nanny from the agency. It's already night, and even if we did, they won't accept anyone now. They're calling for Amelia." "They'll forget. Children forget." Mrs. Davies looked at her employer with an expression that mixed pity and disapproval. "Do you really believe that, sir?" William didn't answer. Mrs. Davies sighed and left, closing the door carefully. The hours passed. The screams subsided to sobs, the sobs to whimpers, until finally, out of sheer exhaustion, the twins fell asleep. But it was a restless sleep, full of waking and more crying. William didn't leave the office. He stayed there, Catherine's photo in his hand, the documents abandoned, the whiskey bottle half empty. He tried not to think about Amelia's face when he fired her, about his daughter's desperation, about the cardboard box abandoned in the garden. But the images wouldn't leave him in peace. He saw Sophia and Helen laughing, truly happy, for the first time since they were born. He saw Amelia barefoot, sweaty, pushing that ridiculous box with so much love and dedication. He saw his daughters calling another woman Mom, and that hurt more than anything. Because Catherine was their mother. Catherine, who never saw them grow up, never heard their first words, never felt their hugs. Catherine, who traded her own life for theirs, and was now somewhere he couldn't reach her. And he couldn't look at Sophia and Helen without seeing Catherine. He couldn't love them without feeling the pain of loss. He couldn't be a father because being a father meant accepting that Catherine would never be a mother. So it was easier to stay away. It was easier to work, to avoid, to hide. It was easier to fire the nanny who was bringing life to that house, who was making his daughters happy, because seeing that happiness was a constant reminder of everything he couldn't give. But now, in the silence of the night, with the office dark and the house finally quiet, William began to wonder if he had made the right choice. His daughter's sobs still echoed in his mind, and for the first time in 2 years, he wondered what Catherine would think of him now. She had loved him for being a good, generous, present man, the man he used to be, not this ghost he had become, hiding behind work, running from his own daughters, incapable of loving or being loved. But it was too late. Amelia was already gone. And tomorrow, when the twins woke up and looked for her, and she wasn't there, the cycle of pain would continue. Only this time William knew the blame would be entirely his. He looked out the office window and saw the full moon in the sky. It was the same moon Amelia was probably seeing now on the bus back home. The same moon that illuminated a house empty of love, full of regret, inhabited by a man who no longer knew how to be human again. And for the first time in 2 years, William Blackwood allowed himself to cry. The bus arrived in Harmony Creek when the sun was already high in the sky. Amelia got off with her heavy suitcase and an even heavier heart. She hadn't told anyone she was coming back, so when she showed up at the door, Eleanor was startled. "Amelia, what are you doing here?" "I was fired, Mum." Lily came running from the kitchen and threw herself into her mother's arms. "Mummy, you're back! Are you back for good?" Amelia hugged her daughter tightly, breathing in the scent she had missed so much, but the tears came again. "I'm back, my love, I'm back." That night, after putting Lily to bed, Amelia sat with her mother and told her everything in detail. Eleanor listened in silence, shaking her head from time to time. "That man is lost in his own pain," she said at the end, but he'll have to wake up sometime. The girls are going to suffer so much, Mum. They already lost their mother, now they've lost the person who cared for them with love. It wasn't your fault, my dear. You did the best you could." But Amelia couldn't stop thinking about Sophia and Helen. Had they stopped crying? Had they managed to sleep? Did they understand why she had gone? The following days were strange. Amelia was happy to be with Lily again, to be able to hug her whenever she wanted, to be part of her daughter's routine again. But there was a huge emptiness inside her. She missed the twins, wondered how they were, worried about them. And there was also the practical matter. The money she had brought was a lot, more than she had ever seen in her life, but it wouldn't last forever. She would have to look for work again, return to the reality of cleaning houses for $800 a month. A week after she returned, Amelia's phone rang. It was a New York number she didn't recognize. She answered hesitantly. "Hello? Amelia, it's Mrs. Davies." Amelia's heart pounded. "Mrs. Davies, what happened? Are the girls okay?" On the other end of the line, she heard a heavy sigh. "No, Amelia, they're not okay. They're not okay at all." Meanwhile, in New York, the mansion had become a living hell. Sophia and Helen cried day and night. They would wake up screaming for Amelia, refuse food, refuse baths, refuse everything. The agency sent 3 different nannies in the first week, but the twins wouldn't accept any of them. They screamed, hit, and threw themselves on the floor. William tried to continue working as if nothing had happened, but it was impossible. The screams pierced. The walls of his office penetrated his thoughts, destroyed his concentration. At the company, his partners began to notice he was more distant, more irritable, making mistakes he had never made before. At night, when he finally managed to get the girls to sleep with the help of Mrs. Davies and other staff, William would be alone in his office. He couldn't work, couldn't read, couldn't do anything but listen to the heavy silence of the house. It was on one of those nights that he went downstairs for a glass of water and saw the cardboard box still in, the garden, illuminated by the moonlight. No one had touched it since that day. The wheels Amelia had drawn were smudged by the rain, but still visible. William walked into the garden and stood looking at the box. It was so simple, so humble, so different from all the expensive toys he bought for his daughters that they never touched. But it was inside that box that he had seen his daughters truly happy for the first time. He knelt on the damp grass and touched the cardboard. He could almost hear Sophia and Helen's laughter, their shouts of joy, Amelia's excited voice making engine noises. He saw his daughters with their hair flying in the wind, their cheeks red, their eyes shining with pure happiness. And then he understood. What Amelia offered wasn't perfection, wasn't absolute safety, wasn't expensive toys or professional care. It was love. Simple, genuine, unconditional love. The kind of love he couldn't give because he was too busy protecting himself from pain. The next morning, Sophia woke up crying as usual. Mrs. Davies went to the room and tried to calm her, but the girl thrashed about screaming for Amelia. Helen soon joined in the crying. William, who was getting ready to leave for work, stopped in the hallway when he heard the screams. Normally he would have fled, locked himself in his office or left the house. But this time, something different happened. This time, he couldn't turn his back. He opened the bedroom door. Mrs. Davies looked at him in surprise. The twins continued to cry, not even noticing their father's presence. "Let me try," William said, his voice hoarse. Mrs. Davies hesitated, but eventually nodded and left the room. William stood there looking at his two daughters crying in their cribs. They were so small, so fragile, so broken. He had done this, not just by firing Amelia, but for 2 whole years of absence, of coldness, of rejection. He approached slowly and held out his hands. Sophia, Helen. The girls looked at him with their tear-streaked faces. For a moment they were silent, surprised. Then Sophia started crying even harder. "Mommy! I want Mommy!" William felt as if his heart had been ripped out, but he didn't run. This time, he didn't run. He picked up Sophia, then Helen. They tried to squirm away, still crying, but he held them firmly. I know, he murmured, his voice breaking. "I know you want her, and you're right to want her. She's good, she loves you, she knows how to take care of you better than I do." The words came out with difficulty, as if he were pulling each one from a deep place within himself. "But I'm your daddy, and I messed everything up. I was a coward, I was selfish, I was cruel, to you and to her." Sophia sobbed against his shoulder. Helen had stopped struggling and was now just crying softly. "I'm going to fix this. I promise I'm going to fix this." He spent the rest of the morning with his daughters. It wasn't easy. They cried, asked for Amelia, didn't want to eat. But he stayed. He sang songs he didn't quite know, told stories he made up on the spot, made funny faces that made them give shy little smiles between their tears. When Mrs. Davies returned a few hours later, she found William sitting on the floor of the room with both girls in his lap, exhausted, but still there. "Mrs. Davies," he said, his voice firm, "I need Amelia's address." The housekeeper blinked in surprise. "Sir? I need to go get her. I need to bring her back." "Are you sure, sir?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." That afternoon, while the girls slept after an exhausting day, William sat in his office and picked up the phone. He called the agency, got Amelia's contact information, but when he went to dial, he stopped. What was he going to say? "Sorry for being a monster. Sorry for destroying you and my daughters. Sorry for being a coward who can't deal with his own pain." Words wouldn't be enough. He knew that. But he had to try. So he did something he had never done in his entire adult life. He cancelled all his appointments for the week, left his partners in charge of the business, and decided he would go to Harmony Creek himself. He would look Amelia in the eye. He would get on his knees if he had to. He would beg her to come back. Not for the money, not for convenience, but because his daughters needed her, and because, in a way he didn't fully understand yet, he needed her too. Mrs. Davies helped him with the preparations. She booked a plane ticket for the next day, found Amelia's exact address, and even suggested he take something. "Flowers, perhaps?" she said. "Flowers won't fix what I did." "No, but they're a start." The night before his trip, William went back to the garden and looked at the cardboard box again. This time, he picked it up carefully and brought it inside. He didn't know exactly why, but it felt important to preserve it. He went up to the girls' room and placed the box in a corner. Sophia and Helen were sleeping restlessly, calling for Amelia even in their sleep. William sat in a chair and watched them for hours. "I'm going to bring her back," he whispered. "I promise I'll bring her back for you." And for the first time in 2 years, William Blackwood felt something other than pain and emptiness. He felt hope, small, fragile, but there. A tiny spark in the middle of the darkness that had been his life. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe he could still fix everything. Maybe he could still learn to be the father his daughters deserved, the man Catherine would have been proud to see. But first he had to do something he had never been good at. He had to ask for forgiveness. The plane landed in Kansas City mid-morning. William rented a car and drove down the highway to Harmony Creek, the prairie landscape gradually revealing itself. It was so different from New York, so different from the world he knew. The simple houses, the dry land, the intense heat, the people on the side of the road. It was Amelia's world. When he arrived at the address Mrs. Davies had found, William parked the car in front of a small house painted a faded blue, with a crooked wooden fence and a dirt yard. It wasn't extreme poverty, but it was absolute simplicity. And Amelia had left this place to care for his daughters in a mansion, leaving behind her own child. William got out of the car and felt all the neighborhood eyes on him. A man in a suit in Harmony Creek, in a humble neighborhood, driving an expensive car. He was like an alien who had just landed. He took a deep breath and knocked on the gate. A woman with grey hair appeared, drying her, hands on a dish towel. Eleanor looked at him with suspicion. "Can I help you?" "Good morning. My name is William Blackwood. I'm looking for Amelia Scott." Eleanor's face immediately hardened. "You're her boss." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "Yes, ma'am. I need to speak with her. It's urgent." "Urgent for whom? For you or for your daughters who are suffering because you can't be a father to them?" William swallowed hard. This small, seemingly frail woman had a strength he hadn't expected. "Since you seem to know all about it, I imagine Amelia told you what happened." "She did. And now you come here to do what? Fire her again? Yell at her in front of more people?" "No, ma'am. I came to ask for forgiveness and to beg her to come back." Eleanor studied his face for a long moment. Then, without a word, she opened the gate. "She's inside. But if you've come here to hurt my daughter again, you'll have to go through me first." William entered the small yard. There were clothes on the line, a dog sleeping under a tree, pots with flowers that resisted the heat. Everything was simple, but there was life there. There was love. Eleanor led him to the living room, a small room with a worn fabric sofa and an old television. "Sit down. I'll get her." William sat on the edge of the sofa, his hands sweating, his heart racing. He didn't know exactly what he was going to say. He had rehearsed on the plane, in the car, but now all the words seemed inadequate. He heard footsteps and looked up. Amelia entered the room, stopping at the door when she saw him. She looked different, wearing simple clothes, her hair down, no makeup. Her eyes still showed signs that she had cried a lot in the past few days. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice restrained. "What are you doing here?" William stood up, suddenly feeling too large for the small space. "I came to talk to you. I came to ask you to come back." Amelia crossed her arms, a defensive barrier. "Come back? You fired me, in front of your daughters. You yelled at me, humiliated me, threw me out of your house. I know, and I have no excuse for what I did. It was terrible, it was cruel, it was the most cowardly thing I've ever done." "Then why did you do it?" The question was loaded with pain and anger. William looked at her, at this woman who had given so much of herself, who had loved his daughters when he couldn't, and felt his throat tighten. "Because I was scared." Amelia blinked, surprised by his honesty. William continued, the words coming out with difficulty. "Scared of seeing my daughters happy without me. Scared of realizing that someone else could do for them what I couldn't. Scared of feeling." He took a step forward. Amelia didn't retreat, but she didn't move closer either. "When I saw you in the garden with Sophia and Helen, when I heard them laughing like that, calling you Mom, I panicked. Because for 2 years I haven't been able to look at them without seeing Catherine, without remembering what I lost. And you came, and in a few months you did what I couldn't do in 2 years. You brought happiness to that house. You brought life. And for that you fired me. Because I didn't know how to deal with it. Because seeing you love my daughters made me realize how much I was failing them. How much I was failing as a father, as a man, as everything." Amelia let out a tired sigh. "The girls, how are they?" "Devastated. They cry day and night. They don't eat right. They don't sleep right. They call for you constantly." He saw tears form in her eyes. "I tried to take care of them these past few days," William continued. "I tried to do what you did. Sing, play, be present. But they want you, Amelia. They need you. They need their father too. But you were never there for them." "I know, and that's going to change. I promise you that will change. Empty promises. You already promised to give them a home, and what you gave them was an empty, cold house." William felt each word like a slap, but he deserved it. He deserved every accusation, every hurt, every harsh word. You're right. But I'm here, aren't I? I came to Harmony Creek. I came to your house. I'm standing in front of you, asking for a second chance. Not just for the girls, but for me too. A second chance for what? To learn. To be the father they deserve. To be the man Catherine would be proud of me for being. Amelia was silent for a long moment. William could see the conflict in her eyes, the battle between the heart that wanted to help those children and the hurt over what he had done. I left my daughter here to take care of yours, she finally said, her voice breaking. I gave up being with my own child because I thought I was doing the right thing, and you threw me away like I was worthless. William felt his eyes sting. I know the sacrifice you made. I know you left Lily here, that you gave up precious time with your daughter, and instead of valuing that, instead of being grateful, I treated you in the worst possible way. At that moment, a small girl appeared at the door, hiding behind Amelia. It was Lily, 5 years old, her big, curious eyes fixed on the stranger in the suit in her living room. Amelia placed a protective hand on her daughter's head. Lily, go back to your room, my love. Who is he, Mum? He's Mummy's boss. Or he was. Lily kept looking at William with that direct gaze only children have. Is it because of him that you were crying? Amelia was speechless. William knelt, getting down to the girl's level. Yes, it's because of me. I was very unfair to your mother, and I came here to apologize and to ask her to come back. My mum can't come back. She just got here. I missed her a lot. The child's words hit William hard. Of course she missed her. Of course she wanted her mother around. And here he was, asking Amelia to come back, asking her to once again give up time with her own daughter. He looked at Amelia and saw the pain in her eyes, the pain of a woman torn between two worlds, between two families, between two sets of children who needed her. Lily is right, William said, standing up. You shouldn't have to choose between your daughter and mine. It's not fair. Nothing about this situation is fair, Amelia replied. William took a deep breath, making a decision he hadn't planned. What if it wasn't just for a month? What if you could see Lily more often? How? It's 2,000 miles away. I'll pay for the tickets. Once a week if you want. Or every 15 days. You can come visit your daughter whenever you feel the need. Amelia looked at him suspiciously. Why? Why would you do that? Because I realized I can't ask you to sacrifice even more. I realized you're not just an employee. You're a person with your own life, your own family, and I realized that if I want you to take care of my daughters, I need to take care of you too. Eleanor, who had been listening from the kitchen, appeared at the door. Amelia, can I talk to you? For a minute. The two women went out to the yard. William stayed in the living room with Lily, who continued to look at him with suspicion. Are you rich? The girl asked. I am. Then why don't you know how to take care of your daughters? My mom doesn't have any money, but she takes very good care of me. William smiled sadly. You're very smart, and you're absolutely right. Money doesn't teach you how to be a good father. Your mother is much better at it than I am. Outside, Eleanor held her daughter's hands. What is your heart telling you? That I need to go back. The girls need me, Mum. Sophia and Helen are so small, so needy. And Lily? She needs you too. I know. But if he really keeps his promise to give me frequent tickets, I can be more present in her life than I was before. Eleanor sighed. You have a very big heart, my dear, sometimes too big. But if you decide to go back with clear boundaries. Don't let that man disrespect you again. Amelia nodded and returned to the living room. William stood up as soon as she entered. I'll come back, Amelia said, her voice firm, but on conditions. What are they? First, you will be present in your daughters' lives. There's no point in me coming back if you're going to keep hiding. Second, I want days off every 15 days to come see Lily, with plane tickets paid for. Third, you will treat me with respect always. I am an employee, but I am also a human being. And fourth, if you ever decide to fire me again, you do it with dignity, not in front of the children. William nodded. I agree to everything, and I'll add a fifth condition. What's that? You teach me how to be a father. Teach me how to be present, how to be affectionate, how to do what you do so naturally, because I really don't know how, and I want to learn." Amelia looked at him for a long moment, searching for signs of falsehood, but what she saw was sincerity, vulnerability, a broken man trying to rebuild himself. "All right. When do you want me to come back?" "Tomorrow, if possible. The girls are suffering a lot." Amelia looked at Lily, who had come to cling to her leg. She bent down and hugged her daughter. "Mommy needs to go back to work, my love, but I'll come see you much more often now, okay?" Lily pouted but nodded. "You promise?" "I promise, and Mommy never breaks her promises." William watched the scene and felt something tighten in his chest. That love between a mother and daughter, so pure and true. It was what Sophia and Helen deserved to have with him. It was what he needed to learn to give. Amelia returned to New York the next day. William insisted on accompanying her on the trip, taking the opportunity to spend a few more hours talking. On the plane, he told her more about Catherine, about how they met, about the love they had, about the unbearable pain of loss. "She was a pediatrician," he said, looking out the window. "She loved children. She dreamed of having a big family. When we found out it was twins, she was ecstatic. She said it was like getting two gifts at once." Amelia listened in silence, seeing for the first time the man behind the armor. The birth was difficult from the start. There were complications. Her heart began to fail. The doctors told me they would have to choose between saving her or the babies. How could I make that choice? How? "You didn't have to choose. The doctors did their best." But I blamed the girls. Not consciously, not on purpose, but I blamed them. And they felt it. Children always do. When they arrived at the mansion, it was late afternoon. Mrs. Davies was at the door, and upon seeing Amelia, her face lit up with relief. "Thank God you're back. The girls have been impossible." No sooner had Amelia entered the house than she heard screams from the second floor. Her heart ached. She ran up the stairs, William behind her. She opened the bedroom door and found Sophia and Helen crying in their cribs, refusing to be held by one of the staff members. "Mommy! Mommy!" Sophia screamed, her arms outstretched. Amelia ran to them and picked them both up. The twins clung to her as if they were drowning, and she was their only lifeline. They cried, sobbed, and touched her face as if they needed to be sure she was real. "I'm here, my loves. Mommy Amelia is back. Mommy." "Not leaving again, I promise." William stood at the door watching. The scene was simultaneously beautiful and painful. Beautiful because his daughters had someone who loved them so much. Painful because that someone wasn't him. It took hours for the girls to calm down. Amelia bathed them, changed their clothes, made them food that they actually ate for the first time in days. She sang songs, told stories, and filled that room with love and affection. When they finally fell asleep, exhausted but at peace, Amelia left the room and found William waiting in the hallway. "Are they asleep?" he asked. "Yes, finally." "Amelia, I want to start now. I want you to teach me." She looked at him, seeing the determination in his eyes. "They're sleeping now. Tomorrow morning when they wake up, you will be there." "What do you mean?" "You'll go into the room, you'll say good morning to them, you'll help change their diapers, give them their breakfast, you'll be present." William swallowed hard. "What if they don't want me? What if they reject me?" "They will reject you at first. It's natural. But you don't give up. You stay there. You try again. You show that you're present. Children forgive easily when they see real effort." The next morning, when the twins woke up, Amelia was already there. But William was there too, in jeans and a casual shirt, trying to look less intimidating. "Good morning, Sophia." "Good morning, Helen," Amelia said cheerfully. "Look who came to say good morning too." The girls looked at their father with suspicion. Sophia turned her face away. Helen started to whimper. "It's okay," Amelia said softly. "Daddy just wants to help. Let's change your diaper. Daddy, grab that little towel over there." William obeyed, picking up the towel with trembling hands. Amelia guided him step by step, showing him how to change the diaper, how to clean, how to be gentle and affectionate. He was clumsy, nervous, but he tried. Sophia cried throughout the process. Helen was tense. But when he finished, William got a small smile from Helen, and that was like winning a gold medal. The following days were a journey of learning. Amelia didn't do everything alone. She always included William. She taught him how to give a bottle, how to make baby food, how to sing lullabies. In the beginning, he was rigid, too technical, treating the tasks like business meetings. "You're too tense," Amelia said one day, watching him hold Sophia as if she were made of glass. "Relax. She won't break." "What if I do something wrong?" "You will. Every parent does. But the important thing is that you're trying." Slowly, William began to relax. He learned to make silly faces that made the girls laugh. He discovered that Helen liked it when he sang, even off-key. He realized that Sophia loved it when he tickled her tummy. But it wasn't just about care techniques. Amelia taught him about presence, about being truly there, not just physically but emotionally. When you're with them, you have to be really with them. You can't be thinking about work, about problems, about anything else. You have to be there, in that moment, with them. William tried, but it was hard. Years of hiding behind work, of using business as an excuse not to feel, didn't disappear overnight. One afternoon, he was sitting on the floor of the room playing with the twins when Sophia climbed into his lap and rested her little head on his chest. It was such a simple, natural gesture, but William felt as if the world had stopped. His daughter, the little child he had practically ignored for 2 years, was seeking comfort from him, trusting him, loving him despite everything. The tears came before he could stop them, silent, streaming down his face as he carefully hugged Sophia. Helen, seeing her sister in her father's lap, wanted to join and climbed up on the other side. And there William sat, on the floor, with his 2 daughters in his arms, crying as he hadn't cried since Catherine's funeral. Amelia entered the room and saw the scene. She stood at the door, not knowing if she should interrupt, but William looked at her, his eyes red, and whispered, "Thank you." She just nodded, her heart tight with emotion. The changes continued. William started leaving work earlier. He began to have dinner at home, to bathe the girls, to put them to bed. On weekends, which he used to spend locked in his office, he now spent in the garden playing with Sophia and Helen. The cardboard box came back into use. William, initially reluctant, was eventually convinced by Amelia to push the girls across the lawn. At first he was clumsy, very serious, but gradually he loosened up. And when he heard his daughter's laughter, when he saw their little eyes shining with happiness, something inside him healed a little. Mrs. Davies would comment to Mrs. Rose in the kitchen, "It's like watching a man be resurrected. He was dead inside and he's coming back to life. Thanks to that young woman. She has a gift. It's not a gift. It's love and patience." Amelia kept her routine of calling Lily every day. Her first visit to Harmony Creek happened 2 weeks after her return. William kept his promise, paid for the ticket, gave her a 3-day leave. When she returned, he asked about the trip. "How is Lily?" "Growing up too fast. She can already read some words." "Do you miss her a lot?" Amelia looked at him, surprised by the personal question. "Every day, every hour. But I know I'm giving her a better future. And now, being able to visit her more often, it's easier. When you go again, I want you to take a gift from me for her, as a thank you for lending her mother to take care of my daughters." Amelia felt her eyes sting. It was the first time William had openly acknowledged the sacrifice she was making. One day, about a month after her return, Amelia noticed something different. William was in the garden with the girls, and she was watching from the window. He was truly present. He laughed with them, played with them, was spontaneous. He wasn't forcing it anymore, wasn't trying anymore. He was just being. Sophia fell and scraped her knee. She started to cry. William picked her up immediately, comforted her, examined the scrape, kissed her little knee. There, Daddy's here, it's nothing serious, my love." Sophia stopped, crying and hugged her father. "I love you, Daddy." William froze. They were the first words of love he had heard from one of his daughters. He hugged Sophia tightly, closing his eyes, engraving that moment in his memory. "I love you too, my princess. I love you and your sister more than anything in the world." Amelia, watching from the window, wiped away her own tears. The transformation that had begun with a cardboard box and a lot of patience was now in full bloom. William was becoming the father he should have always been. But she also noticed something else, something she didn't know how to handle. The way William looked at her was changing. It was no longer the look of a boss to an employee. It was something different, something that left her confused and a little scared, because Amelia also felt something changing within her. And that was dangerous territory she didn't know if she should explore. 3 months had passed since Amelia's return. The mansion was a completely different place now. There was laughter in the hallways, organized messes in the rooms, the girls' drawings stuck to the refrigerator. William no longer worked late. He had dinner with his daughters and read them stories before bed. The house had become a home. Sophia and Helen were growing up happy and healthy. They no longer cried constantly. They smiled easily, ran through the house calling for either Amelia or their father. They had become normal children, with normal tantrums, normal joys, a childhood that finally seemed like a childhood. William was different too. His eyes no longer held that terrifying emptiness. He laughed more, relaxed more, allowed himself to be human. His partners at the company commented on the change, saying he was more focused, more present, making better decisions. But there was something William could no longer ignore. His feelings for Amelia were growing, becoming impossible to deny. It wasn't just gratitude for what she did for his daughters. It was something deeper, more real. He would watch her singing to the girls and feel his heart ache. He would see her laughing at something silly Sophia did and want to record that sound forever. He noticed how kind she was to all the staff, how she treated everyone with respect and dignity, how her heart was genuinely good. And that scared him. He felt guilty for having these feelings. Catherine had been gone for only 2.5 years. Was it too soon? Was it wrong? What would she think? Amelia also felt the shift in the dynamic between them. William was no longer just her boss. They had become friends, partners in raising the twins. They talked about everything, laughed together, shared concerns, and sometimes she would catch his gaze on her, a look that made her heart race, but she constantly reminded herself of her place. She was the nanny. He was the millionaire boss, different worlds, different lives, and she had Lily. Her daughter would always be her priority. It was on a Friday night that everything changed. William had a business trip scheduled for the weekend, something unavoidable that he had been trying to postpone, but couldn't any longer. He had to go to Washington, D.C. for 3 days to close an important deal. "Are you sure everything will be okay?" he asked Amelia for the 10th time. "Mr. Blackwood, I've taken care of them alone before. Everything will be fine. I know, but it's the first time I'm traveling since I started being present again. I feel like I'm abandoning them." Amelia smiled. How he had changed. "You're not abandoning anyone. It's work, it's important, and it's only for 3 days. If you need anything, call me. Anything at all." "I will." William left on Saturday morning, but not before spending hours saying goodbye to his daughters, promising he would be back soon, showering them with kisses. Sophia and Helen, who were now used to their father's constant presence, were a little sad, but soon got distracted by the games Amelia invented. Saturday passed peacefully, Sunday too. But on Monday morning, when Amelia went to wake the girls, she noticed something was wrong. Sophia was very hot. She took the thermometer and measured, 102 degrees. Helen also had a fever, though slightly lower. They were both tearful, had no energy, and refused to eat. Amelia gave them fever reducer, a lukewarm bath, and tried all the tricks she knew, but the fever wouldn't break. She tried calling William, but he was in important meetings and didn't answer. She left messages, but nothing. The hours passed, and the fever remained high. Helen started having trouble breathing, a wheezing sound in her chest that scared Amelia. "Mrs. Davies, I need to take them to the hospital," she said, grabbing her purse. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No. Stay here and try to reach Mr. Blackwood. Tell him to go straight to the hospital when he can." Amelia picked up both girls, got them into the car with the driver's help and sped off. At the hospital, doctors examined Sophia and Helen and diagnosed a severe respiratory infection. They would need to be admitted for observation and intravenous medication. The next few hours were a nightmare. Amelia didn't leave the girls' side. They cried, scared of the doctors, the needles, the strange place. Sophia had such a severe crying fit that she threw up. Helen was shivering with fever, even with medicine. Amelia sang to them, told them stories, held their small hands. "Everything's going to be okay, my loves. Mommy Amelia is here. I'm not leaving." She sent message after message to William, but he didn't respond. Where was he? Why wasn't he answering? It was already night when finally, her phone rang. "Amelia, I just saw the messages. What happened?" "The girls are in the hospital, respiratory infection. They've been admitted." "Which hospital? I'm leaving right now." Amelia gave him the information. William hung up and she imagined him rushing, desperate, probably breaking every traffic law to get there faster. 2 hours later, he arrived. He was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his face marked by worry and fear. He entered the room where the girls were sleeping, connected to IVs, and felt his legs go weak. Amelia was sitting between the 2 hospital cribs, a hand on each daughter. She was pale, exhausted, with deep dark circles under her eyes. When she saw William, her eyes filled with tears. "They're going to be fine," she said before he could ask. "The doctors said we just need to keep up the medication and observe them, but it was very scary." William approached and looked at his sleeping daughters. They seemed so small, so fragile in those hospital beds. The fear he felt was overwhelming, paralyzing. He could have lost them. Something serious could have happened, and he was miles away. "You took care of them alone this whole time. I tried to call you several times." "I know. I was in a crucial meeting. I left my phone on silent. It was irresponsible of me." "You couldn't have known they were going to get sick." William pulled up a chair and sat next to Amelia. They sat there side by side, watching the girls sleep. The night wore on. Nurses came in every hour to check their vital signs. Sophia woke up once crying, and William calmed her, singing softly the song Amelia had taught him. "You're a good father," Amelia said suddenly, breaking the silence. William looked at her. "Only because you taught me?" "No, it's because you wanted to learn. Not many people would have that courage." "I should have had that courage sooner. I should have been a father from day one. But you're a father now, and that's what matters." They talked for hours while the girls slept. William spoke about the fear he felt when he received the messages, about how he realized he could lose his daughters without having cherished every moment with them. Amelia spoke about the desperation of being alone in the hospital, unable to contact him, trying to be strong for the girls. "You weren't alone," William said. "You're never alone. I will always be here. I will always support you. Because without you, none of this would be possible." There was something in the way he said it, in the intensity of his gaze, that made Amelia's heart race. But she looked away, remembering who she was, the place she occupied. When the sun rose, the girls were better. Their fevers had broken, they were breathing more easily, and they even ate a little. The doctors said they could be discharged the next day if they continued to improve. William insisted that Amelia go home to rest, but she refused. "I'm not leaving them here." "Then we'll stay together. I'll have Mrs. Davies bring clean clothes for both of us." And so they stayed. All day they took turns resting in the uncomfortable armchair, taking care of the girls together, being a team. The nurses commented among themselves about the dedicated couple, and neither of them corrected them, because in that moment they really did seem like a couple, a family. On Tuesday night, with the girls finally stable and sleeping peacefully, William and Amelia went out for coffee in the hospital corridor. They sat on plastic benches, exhausted but relieved. "Amelia, I need to tell you something," William began, his voice serious. She looked at him, her heart speeding up without knowing why. "These last few days have made me realize something I've been trying to ignore for weeks. You're not just my daughter's nanny. You're so much more than that. You're the person who brought light into our home, who taught me how to be a father, who loves my daughters as if they were your own. Mr. Blackwood, and I've fallen in love with you." The silence that followed was absolute. Amelia stared at him, speechless, her heart beating so loud she was sure he could hear it. "I know it's complicated," William continued. "I know you're my employee. I know I have much more money. I know we come from different worlds. I know it might seem like I'm taking advantage of the situation, but I'm not. It's genuine. It's real. You made me feel again, live again, believe that it's possible to be happy again." Amelia felt tears stream down her face. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. I just needed you to know. I needed to be honest. Mr. Blackwood, I have a daughter. My life is complicated. I'm not like the women in your world. And that's exactly why I love you, because you're real, you're genuine, you're good. You made me realize that my world was empty, that wealth without love means nothing." Amelia wiped her tears. "I need to think. I need to process all of this." "Of course. No pressure. I just wanted you to know how I feel." They returned to the room in silence, but something had changed. A door had been opened, a new path revealed, and they both knew there was no going back. The days following William's declaration were strange. Amelia didn't know how to act around him. She tried to maintain normalcy, to care for the girls as always, but there was a tension in the air she couldn't ignore. And the worst part was that she felt something too. Something that had been growing for weeks, but that she had tried to suppress. How could she fall in love with him? He was her boss, a millionaire, living in a world completely different from hers, and more importantly, she had Lily. Her daughter would always be her priority. Any decision she made would have to take Lily into account, but she couldn't deny that when she looked at William playing with Sophia and Helen, her heart warmed. When he laughed in that genuine way, when he was kind to the staff, when he showed he had become a better man, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. William respected her space. He didn't pressure her, didn't bring up the subject again, but Amelia saw that feeling in his eyes every time he looked at her, and she knew he saw the same in hers. 2 weeks after the girls' hospitalization, Amelia made her bi-weekly visit to Harmony Creek. Lily was growing up, smarter, more talkative. During the 3 days she spent there, Amelia thought a lot about everything. "Mum," she said one night, sitting in the kitchen with Eleanor, "can I ask you a question?" "Of course, my dear." "How did you know you loved Dad?" Eleanor stopped washing the dishes and looked at her daughter. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious." "Amelia, I've known you since you were born. I know when something is troubling you. Is it about your boss?" Amelia sighed. There was no use hiding anything from her mother. "He said he's in love with me." Eleanor dried her hands and sat at the table. "And you? Are you in love with him?" "I don't know. Maybe. But it's complicated, Mum. He's rich. I'm poor. He lost the wife he loved. I have my daughter to think about. It's all so confusing. Love is always confusing, my dear, but the question is, does he make you happy? Does he treat you well? Is he someone good for Lily to know?" "He's changed so much, Mum. He's a good man now, a present father, and he treats me with so much respect, so much consideration." "Then what's the problem? What if it's just gratitude? What if he thinks he's in love, but it's only because I helped him with his daughters? What if it doesn't work out, and I lose my job, and can't support Lily anymore?" Eleanor held her daughter's hand. "You're scared, and it's normal to be scared. But you can't let fear stop you from being happy. God didn't bring you to New York just to take care of those girls. Maybe he brought you to give you a new chance at love too. And Lily? Lily wants to see her mother happy. And it might be that this man can give her what you always wanted to give her, but never could. A complete family." Her mother's words echoed in Amelia's head throughout the trip back to New York. When she arrived at the mansion, it was late at night. The girls were already asleep. William was in his office, working. She knocked timidly on the door. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Welcome back. How was the trip?" "It was good. Lily is growing up fast. It must be hard being away. From her." "It is. but the visits help. William closed his laptop and gestured to a chair. Amelia sat, nervous. "Mr. Blackwood, about what you said at the hospital." "William, please, call me William." "William," she tested the name, feeling strange, yet right at the same time. "I've thought a lot about it, and I need to be honest. I feel something too, but I'm very scared." His eyes lit up. "Scared of what?" "Of a million things. Of not being enough for your world. Of it being just an illusion. Of it going wrong and hurting Lily, of losing my job, of—" William stood up and knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Amelia, you are more than enough. You're perfect just the way you are. And it's not an illusion. It's the most real feeling I've had in years. As for Lily, I have a proposal." "A proposal?" "I want to meet her. I want you to bring her and your mother to live here." Amelia blinked, unable to believe what she was hearing. "What?" "This house is huge. There are spare rooms. Lily can go to an excellent school here in New York. Your mother can come too. She doesn't have to be alone in Harmony Creek. You can be a real family all together." "William, that's crazy. We've barely started to understand each other, and you already want my whole family to move in?" "I know it seems sudden, but think about it. You won't have to choose between your daughters anymore because you can have all three of them close. Lily will have sisters, a present grandmother, and opportunities she would never have in Harmony Creek." "And my mother? Do you think she'll just accept that? Why not ask her, call her now, make a video call. Let me talk to her." Amelia was in shock, but she pulled out her phone and called. Eleanor answered, surprised by the late call. "Is everything okay, my dear?" "Yes, Mom. There's someone here who wants to talk to you." William took the phone. "Good evening, Eleanor. It's William Blackwood, Amelia's employer. I'm sorry to bother you so late." On the other end, Eleanor frowned. "What's going on?" "Nothing serious, Ma'am. Actually, I wanted to make an invitation. I would like for you and Lily to come live here in New York. I have a large house, with plenty of space. Lily could attend an excellent school and you wouldn't have to work anymore. You could just enjoy your granddaughter. And Amelia could have her whole family together." Eleanor was silent for a long moment. "And why would you do that?" "Because I've fallen in love with your daughter, and because she deserves to have her family close. She's done so much for me and my daughters. It's the least I can do." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. You don't have to answer now, think about it. But the offer stands." After hanging up, Amelia was stunned. "William, this is too much. It's overwhelming. I don't know." "You don't have to decide now, but think about it. You could come just to visit first, to meet the girls, see the house. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to accept. But at least consider it." Amelia spent the next few days in conflict. The idea was tempting, but frightening. Bringing Lily closer would be wonderful, not having to divide herself between two houses, two lives. But what if it didn't work out? What if it was too fast? She talked at length with her mother on the phone. Eleanor, surprisingly, was open to the idea. "My dear, I'm getting old. Lily is growing up and needs more opportunities, and you deserve to be happy. If this man makes you happy, if he's truly good, why not try?" In the end, Amelia agreed to have at least Lily and Eleanor come for a visit. William arranged everything, paid for the tickets, prepared rooms in the mansion. He was as nervous as a teenager before a first date. When the day came, he picked up the three of them at the airport. Lily got off holding her grandmother's hand, her eyes wide with everything she saw. Amelia ran and hugged her daughter, tears streaming freely. "Mommy, this city is huge." William approached and knelt in front of Lily. "Hi, Lily. I'm William. It's a pleasure to finally meet you." The girl looked at him with those assessing eyes of a child. "You're my mom's boss, the one who made her cry." Amelia turned red, but William didn't flinch. "That's true. I did. And it was the worst thing I've ever done. But I learned from my mistake, and now I just want to make your mom happy and want to, you too." "How?" "By bringing you to see my house, my daughters. I want you to meet your sisters." "Sisters. Sophia and Helen. They're two. You'll love them." In the car, Lily couldn't stop asking questions. Eleanor watched everything attentively, sizing up William. He answered all of Lily's questions with patience, made jokes that made her laugh, and was kind and respectful to Eleanor. When they arrived at the mansion, Lily's jaw dropped. "Mommy, it's a castle." The twins were waiting in the living room with Mrs. Davies. When they saw Amelia, they ran, shouting, "Mommy, Mommy!" Lily frowned. "Why? Do they call you Mommy?" Amelia knelt. "Because I take care of them, my love. But you are my real daughter. They're just little children who need someone." Sophia and Helen looked at Lily with curiosity. "Who is she?" Sophia asked. "This is Lily, my daughter. And this is Eleanor, my mother. They came to visit us." The children were shy with each other at first, but soon they were playing together. Lily, being older, naturally took on the role of big sister, helping the twins, teaching them games, being affectionate. William watched it all with a heart full of emotion. He saw Amelia finally whole, with all the children she loved close by. He saw Eleanor gradually relaxing, realizing that this wasn't just a rich man playing savior, but someone genuine. That night, after the children were asleep, the three adults sat in the garden. Eleanor looked at William. "Do you love my daughter?" "I do, ma'am. More than I ever thought I could love someone again." "And what about the memory of your wife?" "Catherine will always have a place in my heart. But she wouldn't have wanted me to be alone for my daughters to grow up. Without love, she would have wanted me to be happy again. And Amelia makes me happy." Eleanor nodded, satisfied with the answer. "And if my daughter accepts, will you get married?" William looked at Amelia, who blushed. "That's something we'll decide together, in our own time. But yes, that is my desire." Amelia's heart pounded. Marriage, family, a future she had never dared to dream of. The 1-week visit turned into 2, then a month. Lily and Eleanor adapted to life in the mansion with a surprising ease. The girl enrolled in an excellent school near the house, made friends quickly, and loved having her little sisters to play with. Eleanor, initially suspicious, was won over by William's kindness and the joy of seeing her daughter and granddaughter happy. The house became even more lively. Eleanor took over the kitchen a few times a week, preparing Midwestern dishes that filled the mansion with homey smells. Lily taught the twins to sing, to draw, to play pretend. Sophia and Helen followed her everywhere, calling her Sister Lily. William and Amelia grew even closer. The tension of boss and employee was gone. He insisted she was no longer just the nanny, but part of the family. They had dinner together every night, talked for hours after the children were asleep, discovered common interests, laughed at silly things. 3 months after Lily and Eleanor's arrival, on a full moon night in the garden, William proposed to Amelia. It wasn't an elaborate production, there was no expensive ring or movie-like setting. It was simple, genuine, true. They were sitting on the bench near the rose bushes, watching the stars, when William took her hand. "Amelia, you have completely changed my life. You brought light where there was only darkness, love where there was only emptiness. You taught me how to be a father, you taught me how to live again, and you made me believe that it's possible to start over, that it's possible to love again." She looked at him, her heart racing. "I know our story began unusually. You came as a nanny, as an employee, but you became so much more. You became my best friend, my partner, my love, and I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy, taking care of you, as you have taken care of me and my daughters." He knelt on the grass, taking a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple but beautiful ring, an emerald surrounded by small diamonds. "Marry me, not because I'm rich or because I can give you comfort, but because I love you, truly, deeply, and I want to build a real family with you." Tears streamed down Amelia's face. She thought about the entire journey they had taken, from that first day in the cold mansion to this moment in the moonlit garden. She thought of Sophia and Helen, who had become her daughters of the heart. She thought of Lily, who finally had a complete family. She thought about how love can transform everything. "Yes," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." The wedding took place 3 months later, an intimate ceremony in the mansion's garden. There weren't hundreds of guests, only the people who truly mattered. Eleanor cried throughout the ceremony. Lily was the flower girl and took her role very seriously, guarding the rings as if they were treasure. Sophia and Helen, now 3, scattered rose petals down the aisle, more interested in playing with them than doing it right. But no one minded. William waited for Amelia at the makeshift altar with tears in his eyes. When she appeared, simple yet beautiful in a plain white dress, he knew he was making the right choice. He wasn't replacing Catherine. He was opening his heart to a new love, a different but equally true love. The vows were emotional. Amelia promised to love William and his daughters, as she always had, with dedication and affection. William promised to honor Amelia, to respect her sacrifice, and to be the father and husband they deserved. When they kissed, sealing their union, everyone applauded. But the most special moment came afterward, when they called the 3 girls for a family hug, the 5 of them together, united. "Now we're a real family," said Sophia. "The best family in the world," added Helen. "I agree," said Lily, hugging her sisters. The honeymoon was short, just a weekend at a country inn because neither of them wanted to be away from the girls for too long. But they were perfect days, full of deep conversations, plans for the future, and the joy of finally being together without barriers. When they returned, life went on as usual. William continued to work, but always came home early for dinner with the family. Amelia was no longer a nanny but a mother and wife, yet she continued to care for the girls with the same love as always. Eleanor became the doting grandmother who spoiled all her granddaughters equally. A year after the wedding, Amelia found out she was pregnant. The news was met with joy by everyone. Lily was excited to be a real big sister. Sophia and Helen, now 4, were thrilled at the idea of a baby in the house. When the baby boy was born, William held his son in his arms and cried. It wasn't a cry of pain like when the twins were born and he lost Catherine. It was a cry of pure joy, of gratitude, of love. They named him Gabriel. 2 years later, another girl, Laura, arrived. The house was always full of noise, of children running, of silly fights and reconciliations, of laughter and occasional tears. It was life, it was family, it was love. The original cardboard box, the one that had started it all, was carefully preserved. William turned it into a real playhouse in the garden, painted and decorated, where the children played every day. It was a symbol of where everything began, of how something simple can change entire lives. One Saturday afternoon, 7 years after that day in the garden that changed everything, the family was gathered together. Lily, now 12, was helping Eleanor bake a cake. Sophia and Helen, 9, were playing with 5-year-old Gabriel and 3-year-old Laura in the garden playhouse. William was on the lawn, installing a new swing set. Amelia watched it all from the veranda, a hand on her pregnant belly. Yes, she was pregnant again, with triplets this time, a surprise. That left them in shock, but also radiant. William came up to her and hugged her from behind, his hands on her belly. "What are you thinking about?" "About how surprising life is. I came to New York thinking it would just be a job, a way to earn money to give Lily a better future. I never imagined I would find a whole family. I never imagined I could love again, that I could be happy after losing Catherine. But you showed me it's possible, that the human heart is capable of healing, of opening up, of loving again." They stood there, embraced, watching the children play. The mansion that was once cold and silent was now full of life. There were drawings on the refrigerator, toys scattered about, music playing, the smell of home-cooked food, joyful voices. There was love. Sophia came running out of the playhouse towards them. "Dad, Mom, come play with us." William and Amelia looked at each other and smiled. "Let's go," he said. They went down to the garden and joined the children. Eleanor watched from the kitchen window, her heart full of gratitude. Her daughter had found not just a job, but a purpose, a love, a family. At night, after all the children were asleep, William and Amelia sat on the living room sofa. He opened a drawer and took out the photo of Catherine he always kept in his office. "You know, I think she's happy for me," he said, looking at the photo. I think she sent you to me, to the girls, to save us." Amelia took the photo and looked at the beautiful woman, smiling at the camera. She was beautiful, and I'm sure she was an incredible person. She was. And I will always love her. But I love you too, in a different but equally profound way. And that doesn't diminish either love. I know, and I'm not jealous. She made you who you are. She gave you Sophia and Helen. I'm grateful to her. William put the photo back in the drawer, but this time he didn't lock it. He left it there, visible, a part of the family's history. Because Catherine was a part of that history, even though she was no longer there. The years continued to pass. The children grew up, each with their own personality, their dreams, their quirks. Lily became a responsible and caring young woman, always looking after her younger siblings. Sophia proved to be artistic, loving to draw and paint. Helen was the studious one, always with a book in her hand. Gabriel was the family clown, always making everyone laugh. Laura was the sensitive one, who cried at movies and hugged everyone. The triplets, when they were born, brought even more joy and also a lot of work, but the family faced it all together. William became an even more successful businessman, but he never again put work before his family. Amelia remained the heart of the home, the person who kept everything running, who comforted, who advised, who loved unconditionally. Eleanor lived to see all her grandchildren grow up and passed away peacefully at 80, surrounded by love, knowing she had made the right choice in supporting her daughter in that difficult decision so many years ago. And the cardboard box, transformed into a playhouse in the garden, remained there as a silent witness to it all. A witness to the day a broken millionaire saw his daughters happy for the first time. A witness to the day a humble nanny brought life to a dead house. A witness to the day everything changed, when wounded hearts began to heal, when a true family was born from the ashes of pain. Because in the end, it wasn't money that saved William. It wasn't the expensive toys, the luxurious mansion, or anything material. It was love, simple, genuine love, given by a woman who had very little but gave everything. It was the willingness to open up again, to take a risk, to believe that it was possible to start over. And Amelia, who had left Harmony Creek with a broken heart for leaving her daughter, found not just a job, but an entire family that needed her as much as she needed them. She found a love she didn't expect, a life she never dreamed of, and the joy of seeing all her daughters, by blood and by heart, grow up together and happy. The moon that she and Lily had watched from different cities, sharing the same sky, now saw them together every night, in the same house, in the same family. And under that moon, a story that began with tears and separation ended with joy and union. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Amelia, William, and their families has touched your hearts. Sometimes the most difficult changes lead us to the most unexpected and wonderful places. Love has the power to heal, to transform, to build bridges between seemingly distant worlds. To continue this emotional journey, we have prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories. Find it here by clicking to your left. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of life, love, and human relationships. Don't miss our upcoming content. We look forward to seeing you in the comments. Tell us, would you have Amelia's courage? Would you believe in William's transformation? Share your thoughts with us